And we are live. I love saying that, it's always good. Welcome to Mexico City. We've just had the first round of the season 10 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship here in Mexico City. And this is a start of a new thing on YouTube, a YouTube live show, the debrief, the recap of the race that has just happened live on YouTube. Now, Alexa, Pascal Wehrlein was the man that took that first win of the season. Let's talk about him for a little bit, because that was lights the flag, incredible work from the man.
We always used to say that Lucas de Grassi was the king of Mexico, and I think we have a new king in town. Pascal loves this track, he loved it today. He looked, quite frankly, unstoppable around there, didn't he, Saunders?
Well, I mean, it's not even just here, like Puebla as well. It's Mexico as
it's
the
country, man, it's the country. What is it here?
Just coming out of the press conference, he doesn't know why, it just seems to work for them.
It's a taco-powered Porsche, that's what I'm saying.
It does seem, though, that there is just something a little bit extra about this circuit that works for them.
Yeah.
You know, even saying things like he felt like he was doing quali laps in the race, just pushing almost every lap. That's an unheard of luxury in Formula E.
Doesn't happen often.
Not at all. So, you know, you really got to give him kudos and credit where it belongs, because he's done an incredible work. And you know what the real big talking point for me is?
Oh, hit me.
Is that last season, one lap pace they struggled with almost consistently across the whole season. And now they come into the first race of a new season.
All of a sudden,
one lap pace is there, pole position, full package, get the win. I feel like this is dangerous. It's dangerous for the rest of the paddock for sure.
could this be the start of something new? Well, as we go through the live show today, we want your questions about today, about the race, about Formula E. If you want us to answer it, make sure you're asking it.
Absolutely, get those questions in, we'll be happy to answer them. But for now, let's have a little look at Pascal's journey so far in this season and the race opener today. Let's see how we got on.
And now to discuss everything that we've just seen, I am joined by championship writer Katie Fairman's in the house. Katie, talk to me. You were watching that race. You've just come from the press conference. What are your thoughts on today's event?
Well, I really enjoy Mexico City anyway. It always delivers, so I'm a little bit biased. But I thought that was a fantastic race. Pascal, like you said, was so dominant. But we did still have a battle in the early stages. Different strategic decisions with taking the attack mode. Fantastic battles with likes of Evans and Verne. So I thought there was something for everyone in that race.
You know what, we talked about Pascal, we're going to keep talking about Pascal, maybe even try and get him into this live show so we can have a chat with him. But, you know, it was a dominant performance for him, but we can't deny the fact that, let's just look a bit further down the order, in that top 5, there's 3 Jaguars. 3 Jaguar-powered cars at least. Sebastian Buemi, Mitch Evans, Nick Cassidy. I feel like we're going to see a bit of a repeat of this Porsche versus Jag powertrain competition.
Totally. I mean, coming from here last year, obviously we had Dennis with the win, Pascal in second, then went to Dirio where Pascal did the double and won both races there, and everyone was like, Porsche have got this in the bag, this is fine. But then, like you say, the Jaguar powertrains, Jaguars and the Envisions came up, and I think you're right. I think we could see a real battle on our hands. Don't just think Pascal's won here, our season done. Like, we don't know what's coming next, so it's super exciting.
You know, just to add to that, I was just talking to Nick Cassidy coming down here from the press conference, and we were talking about how close it really was. You know, going in the duels, before the duels, sorry, we're talking about a tenth or so between the top 12, not even just getting into the qualifying duels. So there are really small things that could have changed the result today. maybe that grid penalty for Cassidy being one of them. Let's say Cassidy starts a place, he puts the pressure on Pascal, maybe goes for a little move, and then we might be talking about a Nick Cassidy win here.
Totally, and I mean, Sebastian Buemi confessed to actually making a mistake in the race. We saw that this gap managed to form, but he said he made an error. So who knows, maybe without that, we could have had a different person on top of the podium.
I think also from my perspective, it's just really nice to see Pascal back at the front without the championship fight hanging over him, because going into last season, he was still in contention, but it was a long way back for him to win it. Now, fresh start, Porsche, he's wanting to be that leading man again. Do you think this could actually set him up for a clean run through to the end of the season?
Quite possibly. I mean, I hate to address the elephant in the room, but Antonio Felix da Costa didn't even finish that race. So, you know, that's not going to be a great pill for him to swallow. But no, I think that, like you say, it's nice, quick and easy start to the season. He's got that win in the bag already. So let's see what the rest of the season brings.
I'm not going to let us jump on this hype train this early.
Oh, go on. I'm all aboard, man. I'm all aboard.
I am actually going to counter my own point, though. And that is that if you're thinking about momentum and consistency, the two most important things in Formula E racing, what do we have up next? A double header in Diriyah. What happened this time last year? Pascal Wehrlein won both races. This really could be the start of a defining championship for both him and Porsche.
Very much so. Like you say, they're super strong in these opening races, but there are lots of different locations that we get to on the calendar, so many unknowns. Obviously, we're going to Tokyo, we're going to Shanghai, we're going to Misano. Who knows what the teams are going to be like on those tracks? So there's so many different possibilities, but yes, I think Pascal will be able to sleep well tonight knowing that he's got a win under his belt, and that Porsche looked super, super strong.
Well, we just mentioned Antonio Felix da Costa, but I also think it's worth mentioning the other Porsche powertrains, because also they weren't really up there today. Norman Nato and Jake Dennis both struggling, really, coming over some points, but I can't imagine they'll be best pleased with that. Do you think this is just a Pascal fluke? He just likes Mexico? Or should we all be jumping off the Porsche hype train because their powertrain maybe isn't up to par with the Jags?
I hope that all of us with our jumping on different trains have got like maybe refundable tickets, because this is getting intense. But I
Anti-choo-choo.
Yeah, exactly.
Anti-choo-choo!
That is not becoming a thing, Saunders. But no, I was such a random point. I can't remember what we were talking about. Oh,
go on.
No, you go.
Right, yeah, I'm going to add to it. Right, so in regards to the other Porsche power cars, Jake Dennis, Norman Nato, yes, it seems like on paper that they had a bad day today. Jake Dennis made up 7 positions in the first 7 laps.
Yeah.
He didn't finish that far ahead. He went back a few positions, but the pace is there. And this is a notoriously difficult track to overtake on.
True.
Let's not forget that. Most of the overtakes in the whole race happened in the first 15 laps, of which Jake did 5 or 6 to 7, maybe 6 in the end. So I think it's there. It just, as always, comes down to that 1 lap pace. Something that powertrain was struggling with. But the question is, for you, Katie, if it's worked now for Pascal and the Porsche manufacturer, has it now worked for Andretti also?
Potentially. I mean, also we've got to remember that Jake Dennis made a rare mistake. I say rare mistake, he made the same mistake in qualifying last year.
Savage!
I know, sorry about that, Jake. I hope you're not watching. Yeah, so maybe without that little error, he would have made it into the duels and been further up the grid, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think he finished 9th in the end. So, yeah, I think luckily Jake's a strong character. He's been super mature coming into this weekend. Obviously, everybody's talking about defending his title, if he can do a Jev and do 2 on the bounce. But actually, he just is taking it 1 race at a time, which I think is the best way to go about it, not get sucked into all of the hype. So I'm sure that he'll be able to just, it'd be like water off a duck's back, if you know what I mean, after this. I'm sure there might be some sulking, but you never know.
Some of it, it's fine.
I've noticed something about Jake Dennis, and it really started last season, but it's sort of amplified this season. Is his general demeanour has changed a bit. He's more serious, and I mean that in a good way. He takes every part of the journey more seriously. You see him on Instagram talking about trying to get down to weight, or his health, or his fitness, or what he's doing in the gym. And I think this season now he really wants to retain it, and he knows that he hasn't got the excuse of the car not being there to make it happen. He's very focused. So I'm curious. Maybe we get a chance to speak to him, I don't know, but I'm curious to see how he'll feel after what is going to be a disappointing result if he still has that same air of confidence.
I think I'm also quite excited to mention this because we've seen this before with drivers, right? That it's a bit of growth, it's a bit of time, and suddenly we see them really thriving in this championship, and I wonder if that will be the continued case from now on.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you say, Jake has been super mature with all of this, so we'll kind of see how the rest of the season pans out for him, but like I said earlier, He's a strong guy. He knows what he's doing. He's taking it very seriously, like Saunders mentioned, with the, going on a diet. You've also got to remember that he's got his Formula One background, and so he's keeping prepared for that and stuff. So he's a professional man.
Yeah. I just thought it'd be useful to set the scene a little bit of where we are, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind us.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of movement. So just to explain, guys, the media pen where all the drivers go after the press conference is just behind us there.
Yeah.
So all of the fans have gathered to speak to drivers, ask their questions. That's just finished. So the drivers have gone back to carry on with their debriefs with their teams and things like that. But that's why this is a bit of let's say, an ambient experience right now. There's a lot of people here. We were going to try and grab some drivers. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to grab Pascal Wehrlein because as the race winner, he was swamped by media and fans. And in fact, him walking back now towards the garages.
We're just watching him, and there's so many people trying to talk to him, so excited.
That's what I love about Mexico. They are so into this. Like every time we come here, they turn up in their tens of thousands. They sell out the place. They cheer from start to finish, and they really they embrace everything. Not just the race. The concerts, the music, everything going on in the fan village. There's so much to do at a Formula E event.
I love it here.
They live it like we do, and that's it's a great place to start the season.
And we've had all of this chat about Pascal, but maybe it's about time that we start talking about our second place. Let's move on to Sebastian Buemi.
Yes, so Sebastian Buemi, I think credit where it's due, because he's done exactly what he needed to do, and that's carrying the momentum from last season into this season, because that Envision Powertrain, championship winning car, of course, was very good towards the end of last season. It had moments of being good at the start, a little bit of a drop off, then really strong finish. So I think Seb's done very well, and you could tell both in the press conference and other interviews that he's very happy with how this has started.
Very much so. I will take the mic. Yes, I mean, the fact that Sebastian, he brought his trophy, a second place trophy, to the press conference, which was very wholesome. He's clearly not letting that one go. But yeah, Sebastian has been in this championship since the start. He's a champion season 2. He knows what he's doing. He's gone through a pretty tough patch. There was a series of races, well, maybe seasons, where he wasn't getting podiums, he wasn't getting wins, he wasn't getting poles. So he's been through the tough times, and I think he's ready for that redemption now. And like you say, I think it's due. He's a fantastic and talented driver, one of Formula E's best, and yeah, it's great to see him back up on the top spot.
I'm just going to throw a caveat in there.
Hit me.
Because even though, he's a veteran in Formula E, the guy is very talented, he's won so much, decorated in races all over motorsport. But I found this last season, and you actually can see it a bit today, a driver of his calibre in a car of that package should not be under-consuming. He should be on the money every lap. The fact that he was under-consuming and then made a mistake means that there is cracks in the armour that can be exploited for other drivers.
Well, also I heard him say at the end of the race that he actually made an active choice not to go after Pascal there. He kind of thought he could have had him, he had enough energy, but he just didn't want to risk it. And now I wonder, to counter you, is that a man with a championship in mind instead? He knew he had points today, right? He could have gone for the win, but it's risky business. He could have taken him and Pascal out in the process. Is he thinking long game here?
Well,
Go on, Katie.
in the press conference, he was saying that because Pascal is under investigation, not sure if that still exists or not, he was like, I'm probably just not going to risk it in case he gets the win, and like, can either go for the move, potentially bin it, lose very valuable points, and also probably not be in many people's good books by taking out Pascal Wehrlein.
Not ideal.
No, or he can play it safe, bank the points, second place, and there's a potential for the promotion to first. So I think maybe he's playing a smart game, but like you say, maybe that's not quite the racing mentality he should be having. He should be right on Pascal's rear end, going for that win.
Absolutely.
What a lovely thought.
We've talked about Sebastian Buemi, we've quoted him, but let's hear from the man himself. This is what he had to say at the end of the race.
The podium again, your fourth time here in Mexico.
Yeah, actually it was a smooth race, and I think clearly the qualifying was obviously the key point. It's quite difficult to pass here. But I think we've had a clean race. Obviously, I had a bit of a moment into turn one and nearly lost position to Nick, but then I was just able to recover. Pascal was fast. I knew apparently it was under investigation. I didn't want to try too much, so happy with that P2. And if it becomes something better, then we'll be happy as well.
So you decided to just enjoy P2 rather than go for the win?
Yeah, I mean, the last 5 laps I kept under-consuming. I guess I could have got close to him, but at that point, to pass him, it would have been really risky. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to finish P2 and see what happens.
Take the points. Well, congratulations. Sebastian Buemi, second here in Mexico City.
Always good to hear from him. Now let's move on to third place, the new man at Jaguar TCS Racing, Nick Cassidy. And what a debut, I would argue. He said to me, you said to me a minute ago, that he had some interesting things to say in the press conference. Can you give us the rundown, perhaps?
I can. So he was saying that this is probably the most complete day he's ever had in Formula E. Bearing in mind he's been here a long time,
Yeah.
also finished second in the championship standings last year, so you know he's had a lot of good days. But he also was talking about Jaguar and settling in as a whole, and he said he felt more supported than he has done, which I'm eyeing and thinking, oh, that's a spicy quote, Nick. But yeah, he said that he felt very supported within Jaguar, which maybe he hasn't felt in this paddock before. So yeah, lots of interesting comments made, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely buzzing with it. He was saying this morning that the performance in the car didn't feel like a P3 car when he qualified there, obviously with the one-place grid penalty for the red flag infringement. But yeah, I think he's done a brilliant job today, and he should be very proud. And I'm sure Mitch Evans is a little bit miffed that it wasn't him.
Yeah. I mean, in regards to the press conference questions, answers, sorry, it was some pretty spicy quotes, but you have to ask good questions to get spicy quotes. So whoever writes those questions must be an absolute legend. That's what I'm saying. But no, let's talk serious now. Nick Cassidy, great job today, great debut. And there's a couple of things that I've noticed this weekend that I want to get your guys' opinion on.
Ooh.
First of all,
oh no,
in relation to the dynamic at the Jaguar and why it might be working for him, Nick is a guy that likes to get down and into the kind of the details of a team. He wants to know exactly how the car works, and he wants to have a say on every single change and setup. Jaguar are a team that like that. They like that in a driver.
Yeah.
Probably one of the reasons why they sought his services. So I think he might have found his proper home now. I think on one side, excellent. He's going to work really hard for the team. He's going to get the results. But I feel like James Barkley has got an absolute headache potentially coming his way, because there was a couple of things over this weekend. And I think one of them is Nick saying, I didn't feel like the car was very good, free practice 1, free practice 2. But then when he needs to, suddenly he turns it on. I think there's an element of mind games in there. Is it for the benefit of the rest of the grid, or is it from the other man in the other side of the garage?
I think that's a really good point, because we've often said that Mitch Evans is always the bridesmaid, never the bride when it comes to the Formula E Championship. He's had a really tough run, never quite been there, and so that determination is there. We all know what Mitch's focus is, right? It's the championship. Nick, similar. He was in that mindset going into the final race last year. He was fighting for the championship. If you can have any little advantage against your teammate over a race weekend, you're going to take it. If that's playing mind games, if that's maybe swaying things in a certain way amongst the team, they may be really good mates, but when it comes to the track, both of those guys want this championship so badly. I would not be surprised at all if there are some main games going on between each other. Katie?
Thank you very much. Well, you've got to remember these guys have also been teammates in the past, obviously both growing up in New Zealand, but when they were 13, 14, they were working together. I was speaking to Mitch earlier in the week, trying to, get some good quotes out of him, saying, what's it going to be like working with somebody that you know so well? I guess you've got kind of things that you know about him that maybe others don't. Is that going to be a benefit? And of course it works both ways. But yeah, as soon as it was confirmed that Nick Cassidy was going to be along Mitch Evans, you knew that there were going to be fireworks this year, and they're downplaying it and they're saying, oh, everything will be just nice. They'll be like Switzerland. It'll be very, everything will be nice and neutral and peaceful. Yeah. But you know that it's gonna be chaos. So I'm looking forward to it.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? It feels like there might be a potential storm brewing. I mean, we might be wrong. It might be the most harmonious relationship Formula E's ever seen. It could be 1-2s galore for the season, and we could see Jaguar finally get that, not just teams, but driver's title as well. But I think we should probably hear from what he said after the race, because how he sounded in the press conference was a little bit more positive than he sounded directly out of the car. Let's take a look.
You at Jaguar TCS, what a way to do it with a podium finish.
Yeah, really nice. It's not been an easy weekend, and the team have been really awesome with me though, and I think, hopefully this is the start of something quite cool, and hopefully we can keep improving. But great race. I think we got fast lap 2, so that's a nice little cherry on top.
Was the expectation today to be on the podium?
Coming into the weekend, I was quite confident and high on expectation, but I must say with FP1 and FP2, I thought, I'm in for a difficult weekend, so the recovery was really nice.
And Pascal Wehrlein just had incredible pace. Were you surprised by that?
I think we could challenge him. I think the grid penalty really hurt. We could get Max and go to P3, but had that been starting P3 and a bit different, then hopefully we would have had something for Pascal.
Excellent. Well, what an absolutely fantastic start for yourself and the team. Huge congratulations.
So that was Nick Cassidy direct out of the car. Time to move on. Katie, thank you very much for joining us. A pleasure as always.
It's been emotional.
Make sure you stay tuned to the Formula E website to see all the work, the hard work that Katie does. She's an absolute legend. She's excellent what she does. Enjoy it. Now, Georgia, let's get you in. Roku crew in the house.
Oh, thank you so much. Do I take this? Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming on Roku channel, the Recharge especially. So that will be going live tomorrow at some point once it gets all edited and thrown together. But it's going to give people a way to rewatch all of the highlights from here in Mexico City and every Formula E race across the schedule. So really exciting things in the works.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about your first experience now.
Yeah.
Your first time at a Formula E race event. What do you think?
Oh, I loved it. I was in Portland last year and it took my breath away. And then you come here and it's about quadruple the size and everyone seems to be in good spirits. And there's always anticipation and buzz around the first event of a season. And I think it lived up to that.
Absolutely. Sorry, Lex, you take that one.
Let me jump in because we've seen actually a lot of American fans here today. A few of them have never been to a Formula E race before. As someone who you yourself come from other backgrounds, how does this like completely compare? Because I swear the spectacle here is like nothing else.
Oh, it's incredible. I did not know really what to expect coming into this weekend. I've watched some videos, but then when you get here and you experience it and you experience the amount of fans here, plus the racing action itself, it's hard to capture that all in a video, but I would suggest anyone in America, wherever you be, come on down to Mexico City for the E-Prix because that was awesome.
So obviously, for someone with a lot of experience in IndyCar, we've talked a little bit over the weekend about the differences. What really stood out for you as differences, both in the racing, but also in the work that you're doing with Roku?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely some differences. I mean, completely different style of racing and so many different technical things that you're looking at, especially on the electric side versus the IndyCar side of things as well. But I would say the biggest thing that I see is just the size and the magnitude of this event. I mean, even all the way down to the podium, there's people as far as the eye can see, and so that really stood out. Obviously, we're all racing here, but the electric aspect of it, the conservation of it, it's so cool to watch and get up close and personal too.
Awesome. Right, I'm going to throw a topic out there. We've spent a lot of time in this show so far talking about the good things, the three on the podium, but of course, in that first half of the race, there were a few bad moments for a number of people. Just throwing a few names out there. Robin Frijns, of course. Again, Robin, 2 years in a row. DaCosta and the ERT, Sergio Sette Camera not even starting, actually watching the race in front of us in Team and Crew Catering. Discuss.
Yeah. Well, if there's good, there's going to be bad, right? So unfortunate for those teams, and obviously that's not the way that you want to start out the season, but I think the good news is that Diriyah is only 2 weeks away. So you kind of have to put it behind you, you reset, you refresh, and you head into a pair of night races, which is going to be completely different than the conditions that we've experienced here as well. And you go for it, because that's all you can do, right?
I think one team really looking to reset next time out will be ERT. Sergio Sette Camara not making it to the grid today. The bad luck for that team never seems to end. It's a much smaller team, and as we saw with Dan Ticktum, ultimately finishing, I think, the last car to finish today, there's a really long way for that team to go, and I think it's going to be a big ask of them this year, don't you, Saunders?
I do, and you know, it really came down to conversations at the start of the week with the Mahindra team and the ERT team, and actually a little bit of the Mahindra powered with Gap Cooper as well, to be honest. But just thinking about ERT is that they felt like their success this season is going to be based on how well the other teams have progressed in the off-season. As much as that's a barometer, it's not really a good place to be, is it? You want to be confident in the work that you've done, and it feels like maybe one lap pace there'll be somewhere, but energy management is still going to be a struggle.
Yeah, and maybe this is the start of an underdog type story. You never know how the season's going to play out, and with the new venues and all that, I mean, maybe they're underselling themselves a little bit, so we'll just have to see.
Well, actually does remind me of Abt Cupra in Berlin last year. They had a really torrid time that season. Suddenly, we turn up to Berlin, the cars are 1-2 on the grid. Awesome. Maybe we need a little ERT magic for them throughout the season. But it wasn't just them who had a really tough day today. We also have to talk about Robin Frijns, who again in Mexico City had no luck. Let's take a look at his crash that he had to deal with today.
absolutely devastating to watch. I mean, it was quite a strange crash. It just looked like he came through that section of the Forest Hole, completely lost all grip on the rear wheels, maybe put the power down a little bit too early, the change of surface cost it, I don't know what it was, but it was not good for Robin Frijns, especially when there were signs of promise earlier in the day as well with one lap pace. Yeah, sad to see. Do you think he can bounce back from this?
Yes, it's Robin Frijns. No, I mean, we saw after Mexico City that, well, like I was mentioning just a minute ago, he ended up with that pole in Berlin. And if anyone's going to come back, do something a little bit special later on in the season, I do, in fact, think it will be Mr. Frijns himself.
In Frijns we trust.
In Frijns we trust.
Great. Okay, well, Georgia, thank you very much for joining us. Let's get another, let's let people know how they can watch Roku and recharge and everything.
Absolutely. First and foremost, so excited to be on tour this year in the 2024 season, and you'll be able to catch all the highlights on Recharge on Roku channel.
Excellent. I'm going to use the phrase "on tour." That makes it sound so much more interesting.
We're on tour, right?
We're on tour.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now it's the time in the show to go to your questions, because you'll be sending your questions in as we've been talking. Alexa, what have they been asking?
Well, Saunders, I'm going to make you blush. The first question we've got, just a cheeky shout out for Saunders for just being brilliant. I think.
Stop it.
Season 10 Saunders, we've got to start off with that.
Stop it, but more, please. Thank you.
So people are firstly asking about whether Wehrlein is still under investigation. Currently, there's nothing on the FIA notes board of yet, so that win should stand.
Now, he didn't even know himself in the press conference.
No.
He was like, I just heard about it in between the podium and the press conference. So
that's rough. That is rough.
I don't think. I mean, we're looking back. I didn't notice why. No one seemed to do. So I think it'll be okay. Cross fingers.
Fingers crossed, Pascal?
Yeah.
Right. This one I think you'll have quite an interesting take on. Somebody asked whether Mitch and Nick, having been friends for such a long time, will it last the season?
Well, I mean, they've obviously been friends for a long time. They've raced against each other since they were 6 years old. But let's just remember what their relationship is based on. Their relationship is based on racing each other. Mm-hmm. That doesn't change now just because it's a different category. So they're going to be racing each other still.
Oh, yeah.
And they're both adults, and they've both had teammates that they've been friends with before in other categories, I'm sure, in this category as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really changed anything. What potentially might be different, and this was a thought I was thinking about earlier, is that, sometimes you can be your most brutal to the people that you're closest to, because it's almost like unconditional love. I wonder if there's an element of that.
An unconditional bromance.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've been through so much together that they're going to be a bit more tolerant of maybe some bigger moves or some more like game playing together. I mean, who knows? We're just spitballing at this point. We're only one race in. But good question, because it is going to be interesting to see it unfold.
Well, actually, I always wanted to mention that if you like following our Formula E drivers on social, you'll be very aware that there's very much a friendship group within this paddock anyway. There's a bunch of drivers that are from sort of the Monaco area, Nick and Mitch included, that like to hang out, spend their time together outside of the racetrack. They've just about managed to hold that friendship together for quite a few years now. I'm hoping, with that in mind, they'll last the season.
Yeah.
So, I like this one. Which race are we most looking forward to? You go first, I'm intrigued. Put you on the spot.
I mean, I always like starting the season in Mexico because it's just great. So that's happened now, so I've got to choose a different one.
Sorry, mate.
I think watching Tokyo is going to be great because it's a new location in the the streets of Tokyo in Japan, which is going to be amazing.
I'm just talking about how good the fans are. Adds up.
Exactly. That was all, we actually queued that. That guy works for Formula E.
We'll give him a few pesos later.
Yeah. No, I think Brazil last year was really interesting because you've got that massive straight, and I think now they've understood the cars a bit more and they can push the energy management a little bit more. I think we'll see faster speeds there. More overtaking, and I think if the heat is as hot as it was last time, that could spice things up a little bit as well. It was already very imagine that in my last few laps of that race, it was a three-way battle, all the Jaguar-powered cars. It was epic, so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to going to Shanghai for the first time.
Yes, that's going to be super exciting to get there. Really iconic track as well.
Portland's great. I'm at risk of saying all of the events, so I'll throw to you.
You're super on brand by just going through and listing the entire calendar.
What are you most looking forward to?
You know what? I think I'm going to throw a little bit of a rogue one. You did just mention it, but you sort of passed by it. Portland. It was a real unknown going into last year, and it led to some shenanigan-y racing.
Yeah.
This year, we all know about the shenanigans. We know people's game plans going into this. I wonder if people will have some new ideas, some new concepts about how to be successful around that incredibly unique track.
I think it's a good shout.
Yeah.
It's a good shout. It's a great, very unique track. Obviously, a heritage of IndyCar.
Yep.
It threw up records last year. We had our fastest ever speeds, lap speeds, top speeds, average lap time, I think, in Portland last year. So I think we'll see that plus a little bit more.
And it will be there around the 4th of July, so we'll be feeling super American. It'll be a good time to celebrate Formula E going back stateside. Now, the one last thing that I thought was quite interesting was people chatting about the fact that they loved James Rossiter on the comms today.
It was magnificent.
Did he do a good job? But I feel like it's unfair for us not to mention Maximilian Gunther, who actually, honestly, after crashing in FP1, then came back with quite a successful race today, and I'm sure he'll be pleased with that points haul, don't you think?
Yeah, he's a talented driver. He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
quick driver, really quick. And I don't think we can undersell the Maserati because it was a race-winning car last season, and there was quite a lot of good qualifying performance as well. Now it's just going to see whether they have done enough in the energy management side. And I don't think this was really a fair representation. He
No.
didn't hold the position. He was the only driver in the top 5 not to hold a position.
Tough.
Who knows why that was? Was it a little mistake? Was it an energy management thing? Was it a strategy thing? Was it a bad use of attack mode? Whatever it was. But I think we should expect to see more from him. And on that note, it is time to wrap up this first debrief show in the Mexico City E-Prix, round 1 of season 10 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Alexa, it's been great.
Thank you, Saunders.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Stay tuned to Formula E's social channels and website for lots of updates and everything good between now and Diriyah. Season 10.
It's on.